know, my wife, Amy Elliott Dunn, disappeared from our home on the morning of July 5th under suspicious circumstances.
Louder!
And for those of you who are new to my vlog, you should know my best friend Emily is missing right now. She asked me a simple favor to pick up her son Nicky from school, which was 5 days ago, and she hasn't come back yet, so.
2014's Gone Girl and 2018's A Simple Favor are two films based on novels which drew comparisons to one another when the latter was released due to their similar themes, stories, and characters. Both films center on an enigmatic female villain and a protagonist who is not as clean as initially thought, with a mystery at the heart of each movie and several twists along the way to keep audiences on their toes. But where Gone Girl is a stylish, sophisticated, and riveting psychological thriller which maintains tone and characterization and comes to a satisfying end, A Simple Favor is shallow in characterization, swings wildly from a comedy to a thriller to an Anna Kendrick special, and has an ending which undermines the entire film. Both films focus on the disappearances of wealthy, successful women whose pasts are laden with lies and whose disappearances are not what they initially appear to be. Gone Girl has Amy Dunn at the helm, played by Rosamund Pike. Amy is a charismatic and ruthless sociopath whose meticulous planning and scheming eventually leads to the downfall of her husband. Pike plays Amy as a chameleon, someone easily able to slip into different personas, putting on different faces for when the occasion calls. Amy is a complex and layered character, and as the movie unfolds, we see these layers peel away, revealing the darker and deeper wells of her psyche until we understand her and her motives completely. Amy feels like a real person, the mean girl you knew in high school, the charismatic wife pulling her husband's strings, and this is because she is a well-written and fully realized character, whose traits and nuances unfold as the story goes on, letting us into her mind and allowing us to see her for who she truly is.
You think I'd let him destroy me and end up happier than ever? No fucking way. He doesn't get to win.
A Simple Favor's villain is the enigmatic and beautiful Emily Nelson, played with wonderful aplomb by Blake Lively. Lively's performance is a standout in the film, and she imbues Emily with charisma, charm, and sophistication, showing the way she lies while breathing and how she manipulates those around her. But while Lively's performance does bring Emily to life, her acting can't save what is essentially a muddled and somewhat shallow character, whose backstory and motivation seem over the top and out of touch with reality. Where Amy is a meticulous and intelligent villain whose plans fall into place because she commits fully to her revenge, Emily has neither the diligence or foresight which Amy possesses, and her plans come about due to a murder she wasn't even planning to commit, a freak event which spurned her into action. Obviously, two different villains from two different stories are not supposed to be carbon copies, nor should they share the same motivation or modus operandi. But villains should be well written, complex, and, most importantly, interesting. This is where Amy Dunn succeeds, but Emily Nelson fails. While Emily is definitely the most interesting character in A Simple Favor, her character never feels fully realized. She presents more as an idea, a halfway formed character whose motivations, traits, and desires are never completely formed. A glimpse into her background showing that she was a victim of horrific abuse lays the foundation for characterization which is never properly built upon. As an audience, we find Emily intriguing, but we never end up getting to know her on the same level we do Amy.
Did you just take my picture?
I'm your book mom.
Did I ask you to take my picture? Erase it.
A villain is often judged by their opposing force, their hero, so to speak. In the case of both these films, the hero is written to be tainted, initially portrayed as the good guy, but soon revealed to be corrupt in some way, becoming more an anti-hero, and a conflict is created between the hero and the villain, meant to provide an explanation for both sides' actions. Once again, Gone Girl succeeds where A Simple Favor teeters. Amy's foe in Gone Girl is her husband Nick Dunn, played with great nuance by Ben Affleck. Nick is a character who initially seems like a pretty average, decent guy, but whom we soon discover is a liar and a cheat. Nick is a well-rounded and extremely real character, a guy who met a dazzling girl and was swept away by her, and then found that the reality of being with such an intense person was too much for him to handle, resulting in him carrying on an affair which spurns Amy into her revenge. Not only is Nick a well-written and well-acted character, he and Amy play off one another beautifully, providing an interesting and dynamic conflict. Whoever's side one takes, there is good reason, as both parties have wronged each other. We hate Nick for cheating on Amy, for taking advantage of such a glorious human being, and then, when we find out the truth, we hate Amy for planning such a vicious and over-the-top revenge. We see exactly where their conflict starts, we learn exactly why these two hate each other, and we see the scars of their marriage and the horror of their future. They are completely intertwined, and as such, they provide a mesmerizing story with a conclusion we understand.
I fought my way back.
You killed a guy. You slashed his throat with a box cut.
You went on national television and begged for me to save your life, and I obliged. But I want that Nick.
The hero of A Simple Favor is the aptly named Stephanie Smothers, played by Anna Kendrick in a somewhat odd casting choice, which ends up working against the movie. A Simple Favor didn't seem to know exactly what it was going for with Stephanie's character. She swings from a lonely and overbearing single mother, to an intrepid reporter, to a narcissistic and inconsiderate blogger who takes advantage of her friend's death for views on her channel. Kendrick's performance is good, but she imbues the character with her usual offbeat quirkiness, and in a film which is trying to fall into the genre of mystery thriller, this trademark trait of hers feels out of place and grates against the more serious storyline. The attempt to sully her character so that she fits more with an anti-hero characterization is clumsily handled. We are given a bizarre revelation that she carried on a sexual affair with her half-brother, which adds nothing to the story and does nothing for the character. In a slightly more effective narrative choice, Stephanie later moves in on Emily's husband mere days after Emily's funeral and ends up moving in with him and taking over Emily's life. However, this is actually where the biggest issue with Stephanie, and by extension her dynamic with Emily, lies.
Emily, come on. You're not gonna kill me.
Oh yeah, I killed my dad and my sister, but I could never kill my husband fucking best friend.
Where Nick and Amy had simultaneously wronged each other, showing a clear motive for both parties to seek revenge, in the case of Emily and Stephanie, it is actually Stephanie, our hero, who wrongs Emily. Emily's biggest strike against Stephanie is that she takes advantage of Stephanie's pushover nature and asks her to take care of her child. Because there is no major wrongdoing on Emily's part, Stephanie's ruthless pursuit of her and attempts to outsmart her fall flat for the audience, as we don't fully understand where her driving force is coming from or why she comes to see herself as superior to Emily, especially considering the speed with which she moved in on Emily's family. Despite this, the narrative of the movie clearly asks us to side with Stephanie and to see her as the hero, riding in to save everyone from Emily's nefarious schemes, and this is made very clear by the ending of the film, which not only undermines the noir feel that the movie was going for, but is also inorganic to the characters and their characterization. Once again, this is a stark contrast to the brilliant ending of Gone Girl, in which Amy outsmarts her husband with one final manipulative maneuver. Before we talk about the endings of both films, we first have to address the narratives leading up to them, in particular the tonal consistency, or lack thereof, of the two separate films. Gone Girl is classified as a psychological thriller, and the tone of the film reflects this. An aura of malevolence hangs over Gone Girl, every scene imbued with distrust and a disconcerting feeling which keeps the viewer on edge, emphasized by the ambient score, the lingering slow shots of a town in turmoil, and the monotone coloring emphasizing the more noir elements of the film. The flashbacks, showing a supposedly happy Nick and Amy, are still full of tense undertones, the dialogue between the two coming across more as a challenge than an easy conversation.
They already relieved me of my artisanal meat platter.
Finally, someone tells me how to pronounce that word.
Meat?
Yes, meat. One syllable. Thank you.
The film is not devoid of humour, but even these moments are wry and jaded, sprinkled with irony and keeping with the unsettling tone of the film. We move seamlessly between scenes as the events of the film nudge the characters towards the inevitable climax. The Wikipedia page for A Simple Favor classifies the film as a black comedy mystery thriller, and this overpacking of genres may explain why the film feels so inconsistent in tone. At times, it feels like it's trying for the psychological thriller which Gone Girl so perfectly emulates, but this is undercut by the supposed black comedy of the film, which is so broad and unsubtle, it disrupts the more serious and impactful scenes of the movie. A genuinely unsettling scene of Stephanie emptying Emily's wardrobe only to find it fully restored is undercut by a slapstick comedy scene of Stephanie getting stuck in one of Emily's dresses and being forced to conduct a police interview while in such a state. The revelation of Emily being alive and realizing that Stephanie has uncovered her scheme bizarrely cuts to an overly long scene of Stephanie rapping along with the radio, undermining the impact of the revelation. The film feels disjointed, as if it never found its footing, creating an uneven and unsatisfying viewing experience. Both films end with one final wham moment, which cements the final fate of the protagonists. Gone Girl ends with Amy revealing that she is pregnant with Nick's child, forcing him to remain in their marriage despite the fact that she is a murderer who tried to kill him. Amy winning, despite being a villain, feels organic. We have seen over the course of the film that Amy is ruthless, doesn't give up when she puts her mind to something, and, above all, is a meticulous planner. Discovering that she saved some of Nick's semen makes perfect sense, because we have gotten to know her character and we understand how she is always 2 steps ahead, and it works within the narrative thanks to a throwaway scene in which Nick discusses having fertility issues. The ending to Gone Girl is the culmination of 2 hours worth of characterization and exploration of Nick and Amy's relationship, and we understand Amy's motivations and Nick's reactions and eventual decision to stay with her because of this.
I've killed for you. Who else can say that? You think you'd be happy with a nice Midwestern girl? No way, baby. I'm it.
A Simple Favor's ending is truly where the film falls apart. Until then, its flaws are forgivable, but its ending, which differs wildly from the novel, lets the entire movie down. At first, it looks as though Emily will win, as she cleverly unravels her husband and Stephanie's plan to undermine her, and reveals how she is going to pin everything on her husband. This is keeping with Emily's character, as over the course of the film, we have seen how she is able to easily turn on the people she cares about, and how she always looks out for number one. However, this is undone when Stephanie reveals that she has been secretly recording Emily on a hidden camera, ultimately playing Emily in a game of cat and mouse. Not only does the hidden camera reveal feel like a cheap trick pulled out of a generic procedural cop show, Stephanie outsmarting Emily is not in line with what we know about both characters. Stephanie's triumph doesn't feel organic because it requires her to employ skills which she doesn't have. Over the course of the film, we have seen that Stephanie is often anxious and agitated. She gets flustered easily and is a very bad liar. Yet in the climax of the film, we are suddenly asked to believe that she could outsmart and outlie a character who is not only more intelligent than her, but is a seasoned liar. The final moments between Emily and Stephanie fall flat because they aren't built on organic characterization, and the movie is wrapped up far too neatly, with the villain going to jail and the hero riding off into the sunset.
If you came on the vlog and confessed to killing your father and sister and held me at gunpoint, I could probably hit 1 million subscribers.
Oh, that would have been great.
Why don't we do that right now? We're live streaming. Did you not know that?
As mentioned, this ending differs wildly from its source novel, in which Emily manages to successfully frame her husband and Stephanie and escapes to Europe with her young son. It is unclear why the writers of the film felt the need to change the ending, as their doing so drastically altered the noir attempts of the movie and ended up producing a bland and trite ending which ultimately ruined the overall enjoyment of the film. Because, despite its flaws, A Simple Favor is still an entertaining film. Blake Lively's performance is a standout, and while I personally feel that Anna Kendrick was miscast, she still gives it her all in the role. The director makes some very interesting choices when it comes to lighting and cinematography, contrasting the dark subject matter with an overly bright setting, which creates an unsettling tone as if we're glimpsing the ugliness which lies beneath the shiny exterior. However, The film being compared to Gone Girl when it was released did it a big disservice, as even if the ending were changed, it would not live up to the beautifully crafted psychological thriller, with its perfect casting, slow and deliberate cinematography, and amazingly sharp writing. And as it stands, A Simple Favor will now never escape the long shadow cast by the more superior Gone Girl.